You are seated at a bar table at 3 in the morning, staring into the bottom of an empty glass, silently listing all the individuals you hold responsible for your life. The boss who doesn't acknowledge you, the parents who failed to support you, the ex who betrayed you, the system that oppresses you, the society that confines you. The list is extensive, flawless, irrefutable. And you feel a sense of relief for having so many culpable parties. Bless yourself. Sartre would observe you at this moment and utter something cruel. You are not imprisoned by the world. You are confined by the comfort of blaming the world. Because while your finger points outward, change never points inward. Today you will understand why those who blame do not change. They only survive. Why true freedom is only born when you cease fleeing from the responsibility of being who you chose to be. If this has already happened to you, comment below. Share in the comments if you've ever found yourself in the situation of blaming others without taking responsibility for your own game. Modern society has taught you a convenient lie. You are a product of circumstances. Born into poverty? Blame the system. Absent parents? Blame a dysfunctional family? Stalled career? Blame the market. Failed relationships? Blame a generation that doesn't know how to love. The culture of blame has become an epidemic because it offers something irresistible: exemption from responsibility. You don't need to change if you're not at fault. You don't need to grow if you're a victim. You don't need to take control if someone else is driving your life. But Sartre would dismantle this logic with one phrase: you are where you are because you chose to be. Even when you didn't choose the circumstances, you chose how to respond to them. Even when you didn't control the events, you controlled their interpretation. Even when you had no power over what happened, you had absolute power over who you became afterward. And as long as you outsource the authorship of your existence, life happens without you. Others decide, others advance, others change. You remain in the same place, constructing a perfect narrative about why you can't get out of there. Blame is not a diagnosis, it's anesthesia. It's the drug that dulls the pain of being responsible for yourself. For Sartre, there is a destructive concept called bad faith. It's not lying to others, it's lying to oneself. It's the systematic self-deception of believing you have no choice, that your life is dictated by external forces, that you are a puppet of destiny. Genetics, education, luck. Bad faith is the most subtle and effective psychological prison ever created. You build the fences, lock the door, and throw away the key. Then you complain that you're trapped. Sartre would say that you live in bad faith when you claim, I'm like this because my parents were like this. I can't succeed because I didn't have the opportunity. I fail because the world is against me. Each of these phrases is a resignation, an assertion of voluntary powerlessness, an unwillingness to choose. But the brutal truth is that it's easier to be a victim than a protagonist. Being a victim grants privileges, the right to complain, to lament, to demand understanding. Being a protagonist entails obligations, the duty to act, to fail, to try again. Owning your own life is terrifying because it means that if you're miserable, you've chosen to be miserable. If you're small, you've chosen to be small. If you're stuck, you've chosen to stop. Bad faith shields you from this truth. But that protection keeps you exactly where you are, blaming the world and waiting for the world to change you. There is an invisible cost in avoiding responsibility. As you point fingers outward, you relinquish control. As you blame others for your circumstances, you give others the power to change your conditions. Sartre understood something most never grasp. No one changes what they believe they haven't chosen. If your life is the product of chance, luck, or other people's malice, then your life will only change if chance, luck, and others' cruelty change first. You remain in the waiting room of existence, hoping external forces will resolve your internal issues, waiting for the world to fix itself so you can fix yourself. Waiting for others to do for you what only you can do for yourself. And while you wait, life passes, opportunities pass, years pass. And you remain stuck in the same place, with the same story, blaming the same culprits. Sartre makes a radical statement. Freedom exists only for those who accept the burden of their choices. Freedom is not the absence of obstacles. It is the ability to choose how to respond to obstacles. Freedom is not controlling everything. It is taking responsibility for everything you do with what you cannot control. And this freedom is frightening because it comes with a price. If you are free, you are responsible. If you are responsible, you have no excuses. If you have no excuses, you must act. I know a man who spent 40 years blaming his absent father for all his failures. Mediocre career? Blame the lack of paternal guidance. Unstable relationships? Blame it on abandonment traumas. Limited financial resources? Blame it on the lack of financial education you never received. The narrative was perfect, cohesive, convincing, and completely sterile. Because while he was constructing his father's biography as the villain, his own life story remained blank. While he explained the past, the present went unnoticed. While he justified what he lacked, he wasted what he had. Until the day he met a co-worker who also grew up without a father. But this co-worker had built a company, a solid family, a respectable estate. And when asked how he managed to overcome paternal absence, he replied with something that shattered a 40-year-old narrative. Overcome what? My father not being present was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It forced me to be my own father. It taught me that I don't need anyone to raise me. At that moment, the first man understood the difference between explanation and transformation. Explanation keeps you stuck in the past. Transformation takes you into the future. And transformation only occurs when you stop using the past as an excuse for the present. If any part of this video has prompted reflection, mark this moment in the comments. That's where change begins. And if this resonated with you so far, leave a like. Not for me, but for yourself. The human mind is a machine for justifications. It can find external reasons for any internal result. Failed in a business, the market was bad. Ended a relationship, the person was wrong. Didn't get the job, the selection process was unfair. Didn't advance in your career, the boss has biases. The mind is so efficient at constructing these explanations that you start believing in them. And then a vicious cycle begins. The more you blame external factors for your failures, the less you seek internal solutions. The less you seek internal solutions, the more you fail. The more you fail, the more you need external explanations, and the cycle perpetuates itself. Sartre observed that this dynamic is a choice. You choose to find fault instead of seeking solutions. You choose to build narratives instead of building results. You choose to be a spectator of your own life instead of the director. And that choice condemns you to a reactive existence. You're always responding to what happens, never creating what happens, always adapting to others' games, never designing your own, always explaining why you can't, never discovering how to succeed. The strategic diagnosis is simple. You don't have a problem with circumstances, you have a problem with interpretation. It's not what happens to you that defines your life, it's what you do with what happens. I know another man. At 30, he was diagnosed with a degenerative disease that would leave him in a wheelchair. Doctors said he would have at most 5 years of active life. Any normal person would use this as an excuse to give up on everything, to become bitter, resentful, a victim of cruel fate. But this man did the opposite. He said, "If I have 5 years, I will do in 5 years what others do in 50. He quit his secure job, started the business he always dreamed of, wrote the book he kept postponing, traveled to places he had been saving for later, sought out the woman he loved and proposed marriage, had children, built a fortune. And you know what happened? 15 years later, he is still active. The disease progressed more slowly than expected, but even if it had advanced at the anticipated speed, he would have lived more in 5 years than most do in 50. Because he didn't use limitations as an excuse, he used them as urgency. He didn't let difficulty be a reason to stop, he used it as a reason to accelerate. Sartre would call this existential authenticity, taking full responsibility for the quality of your existence, regardless of your circumstances. You don't control what you receive, but you do have complete control over what you do with what you receive. The birth of self-transformation occurs at a very specific moment. It's when you stop searching for who to blame and start searching for what to change. It's when you stop explaining why you can't and start discovering how to succeed. It's when you stop justifying yourself and start transforming yourself. Sartre called this the project of being. It's when you consciously assume the authorship of your own existence. It's when you say, I choose, I change, I err, I take responsibility. And at that moment, the free subject is born, not free from obstacles, but free to choose how to deal with obstacles, not free from limitations, but free to decide what to do within them. Not free from suffering, but free to give meaning to suffering, and this freedom is terrifying because it makes you responsible for everything. If you're unhappy, you chose unhappiness. If you're stagnating, you've chosen stagnation. If you're bitter, you've chosen bitterness. Yet this very freedom is liberating because it empowers you to do anything. If you can choose unhappiness, you can choose happiness. If you can choose stagnation, you can choose growth. If you can choose bitterness, you can choose overcoming. And all genuine change begins with this courage, the courage to accept that you are the sole responsible for the quality of your life experience. True freedom comes with a burden that most are unable to carry. It's easier to bear the weight of circumstances than the weight of choices, because circumstances are impersonal. Choices are personal. Circumstances victimize you. Choices hold you accountable. Circumstances evoke compassion. Choices generate judgment. Sartre knew that humanity prefers the compassion of victimization over the judgment of accountability. But he also understood that real power only exists in taking responsibility. When you accept that your life is a product of your choices, you assume the power to make different choices. When you acknowledge that you created your problems, you accept that you can create your solutions. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, you begin to see yourself as the author of the circumstances, and that changes everything. Because a victim waits for rescue, an author creates results. A victim blames the world. An author changes the world. A victim explains why they can't succeed. An author figures out how to succeed. Sartre said that freedom isn't comfortable, it's heavy, because it forces you to carry the weight of all your choices, including the choice not to choose. But it's within this weight that you find your power. It's in this responsibility that you find your capacity to respond. It's in this burden that you find your strength. Freedom is maturity. You stand up without expecting rescue. You change without waiting for permission. You grow without seeking approval. And you take ownership of your existence without needing co-authors. Now, tell me, are you still going to try to be understood, or have you already grasped the game? Will you keep pointing fingers outward and handing over control? Or will you accept that everything you are today was your choice? Will you continue outsourcing responsibility for your life to parents, system, society, boss, government? Or will you realize that as long as you blame the world will keep ruling your life? Write this in the comments. It's your contract to break free from the victim mentality. And if you want to keep hearing truths that no one else dares to tell you, subscribe. Here, illusions don't survive. Sartre warned decades ago. Change begins when you stop running from the responsibility of being who you are. Freedom exists, but it's only real for those brave enough to pay the price, taking full responsibility for everything you've chosen to be so far, and for everything you will choose to become moving forward. The world won't change you. You are the one who changes the world. Starting by accepting that you have always been the author of your own story, even when you pretended to be just a character in someone else's narrative.